I'm reviewing it. I can show you, but that is, we have to do some problems.
Okay, no, but a great question, good catch. I got it. I have not even prepared.
Yeah, I don't know why, but the thing is,
I'm glad you do.
email because I did see it,
I know that they can't.
and because I remember looking at it.
Ready? Randy. Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 13th, 2018. I'd like to call this evening's City Council meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I have the roll call?
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
Councilmember Siddle.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Here.
Councilmember Cerveny.
Here.
Mayor Thornton.
Here. Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. If there are no requests for any items to be removed, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have council staff reports and announcements. I have a few things that I want to share with the council this evening. First of all, I just want to remind everybody that our first concert in the park will be on June 30th. It's going to be at 6 o'clock, and that will be the first of 5 concerts that we're going to have this summer at Stern Wheeler Park. Also, the spray park will be starting operation this Friday, June 15th, last day of school, so I'm sure there's a lot of young people in the center that'll be very happy to hear about that. As everybody knows by now, the roundabout is under construction. I think the contractor's made some great progress in a short period of time. Tony Cooper is here this evening, our city engineer. He'll be briefing the council on a few of the issues with the roundabout project, but again, it's well underway, and I think the contractor so far has really been performing well, and the city staff has been doing a phenomenal job. Tony's been pretty consumed with that of late, but he's doing a great job, and I just appreciate everybody's patience as we deal with that construction project here in the center. It is right at the heart of the city. It's the major intersection we have in our community, and yeah, it's going to be, they'll be working on it for a while, so just have to remind everybody to have patience as they go through that construction zone. It's really critical that everybody be careful, and safety is always the highest priority. Later this month, the Association of Washington Cities, AWC, will be holding their annual conference in Yakima, and we do have 2 city council members that will be attending that, Councilmember Wolf and Councilmember Valenzuela. So I appreciate you both signing up for that. They're great conferences, and yeah, the rest of the council will be anxious to hear what you learn when you get back. I know here in about 25 minutes, the city's American Legion will be putting up the flags on the center bridge in honors of Flag Day for tomorrow. So appreciate that happening, and it's always great to see the flags being put up on our bridge. So we do have one of the representatives here this evening, and we appreciate, well, 2 of them actually. So we really think it's great that you're able to do that. Thank you. And then just one other short announcement. I was talking with Matt Jenkins, our wastewater treatment plant supervisor, this morning, and last Friday he conducted a tour for 5 full classes of 5th graders. He had about 140 students that toured the wastewater treatment plant last Friday, and he said it went very well. And yeah, I was happy to hear that. And so I just wanted to share that with the council as well. That's all I have this evening. Our city attorney, Mr. Cairns, is absent and excused tonight. He won't be attending, so we'll move right on to council member comments. Councilmember Ball.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Last night I attended the school board meeting. Of particular interest was a presentation made by the architectural firm, which is doing the design for the new middle school. There were a presentation of 3 different concepts. There were questions and answers, and after the initial presentation, then we broke into different groups. There was an easel with architectural rendering of each of 3 different plans, and the architects were looking for input from the citizens. They're looking for positive and negative comments. No decisions were made last night, but the architects will take the information that they picked up from the citizens last night, and then they will be coming back with some other ideas. It's anticipated that there may be another public presentation sometime in August. That's not for sure, but August was mentioned as the possible next public meeting for input. When they do have that, if you've got the time, if you're available, I would suggest that you attend. It's very interesting to see the process that the school district and the architects are going through to finalize the plan. So that's all I've got.
Very good, thank you. Councilmember Stimmel.
I just wanted to pass along to city engineer, to the folks working on the roundabout, that change in the construction step plan seemed to have really helped. I don't know if you guys have been held up in traffic. I haven't really at all. And they're doing a lot of work out there, so great job.
It's really torn out.
That pass through was a pretty good idea. That's all I had.
Thank you. Councilmember Williams.
And Mayor, thank you. I got a couple of things. First, I'd like to tag on to what Councilmember Stimmel said. It's been great. If I live in Southview Heights, if you go up to 10th Avenue and make your turn up there, you'll miss a whole lot more traffic in front of the police department. It seems like it's a little longer, but it actually goes faster. The other thing is, we talked about dogs being loose. Mine got out today, and but she had a La Center City license, and within 45 minutes, I got a call and she was in the cage over at the police department. So, I mean, and part of that delay was me just getting the message. So, to all of you, if you have dogs, I know it's kind of optional to get a license, but it sure was worth it for me. I didn't waste a lot of time getting my hound back. So, anyway, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Just a report on a meeting from the C-Tran yesterday afternoon. There's a new state law that was passed, so the composition of that board for the rapid transit buses, et cetera, there's going to be a new composition of that board required next year. But we voted to keep our composition the same as it has been for the last 8 or 10 years at least. So that should hold for 3 more years, and then there will be a mandatory change in the composition of the C-Tran board to realign the distribution. Apparently, again, that most everything is driven out of Seattle area, and so I'm sure that we'll see the impacts of that. But we voted to keep the current status for 3 more years. So we'll be represented in our rotation basis with Yakult and Richfield, and right now John Main is doing a very good job representing our needs out here in the hinterlands. We're not big bus movers yet, but it was real nice to hear that the new Vine that they put up, it goes down 4th Plain. They've got like 40 to 60% ridership improvement since they put the new buses in there. So it's working out real well for them. So eventually we hope to get the buses to do a loop all the way out Pacific Highway, come through La Center, go by El Lani and back into Ridgefield, and there's supposed to be a new college and medical building over in Ridgefield. So they'll probably have to extend the loop eventually. So we have been pressing that to be added to their master plan. Longer range plan. So that is something that we can look forward to in the future. How far in the future, we don't know. We just don't have the ridership right now. And there is still on the books an opportunity to try to use Uber as a possible secondary means of getting to a main bus station. It's actually cheaper for the transit system to have clients use the Uber to get down to a main station than it is for them to run a bus out here twice a day. So that might be on the, we're going to have a pilot program for that. So especially seniors, they want to get downtown, they want to use the bus system. They'll be able to, and there's no specifics yet, but they'll be able to get an Uber to get down to a main bus station if they have doctor's appointments or whatever. So that's in the works, a pilot program.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for attending the meeting, too. Councilmember Cerny.
Don't have anything to add.
Okay. Very good. Next on the agenda are staff reports. This evening we have two staff reports. Chief Denny has a staff report. If you could get, there we go.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, citizens of La Center. Chief Denny with the La Center Police Department. Just to update for May, we had a couple of vacancies on PAC, which is a Police Advisor Coalition, and we had from resignations from Ron Cremona and Carrie Johnson because they had other duties and all that kind of thing going on, and they couldn't fulfill their duties any longer. But we ended up picking up quite a few more. Instead of just the two vacancies, we filled a lot more. So new members of Louis Vitae, Sally Alcazan, Joanne Tucker, and Ron Ostrander, and John Davis to fill vacancies on the PAC. So it's a great thing for the PAC, and they're going to be able to do a lot more in their duties, part of the community, and getting out there and educating and helping us form an alliance with the community and vice versa. So it's going to be a great support for the Center Police Department. We got a new officer, Alec Langlos. He started on his FTO May 31st, and so we welcome him aboard. And he already attended the Washington State Basic Law Enforcement Academy, and he's on his field training program now with his first FTO is Officer Pavelko. So he's so far so good, and we're looking forward to great things for him in the future. Officer Martinez completed his probation as of May 1st. Alex Martinez has been on probation for 12 months, and he's been doing a wonderful job, actually. He's been a great asset to the department, and he's exceeded expectations of him while he's on FTO, and has actually gotten very good high marks on all of his evaluations. So, and he's been doing some very solid police work in town. So we commend him for that, just as well as all the other officers. But he's really stepped up and done a great job. As you can see on the next page, we have our stats, and there's a lot of stats there. So the officers have just been tremendously busy. I don't know if it's because the summer months are upon us or what have you, but obviously the calls for service are up. The calls for serious calls are up as well, so calling for more officers to respond at any given time to any particular incident. And as you can see, traffic stops have increased as well, and those types of things. And with the construction going on, we've had an increase of people ignoring traffic control devices in town. Instead of stopping, they yield quite a bit more. They do things to try to, I guess, get through the process a little quicker. So that's causing some problems for us, as well as speeding. I guess the summer months are causing that. People are anxious to get out and enjoy the sunshine, but our speeding violations are up as well. So if people could please keep it in check, we'd appreciate it. Other than that, I mean, I know we've had some incidents since May that everyone's probably interested in. We had a very big SWAT mission in town, and for La Center, that was a significant event. And the reason why we had so many police officers in town is for safety, not safety of our officers and safety of the citizens. Not necessarily because we need that many officers, but we had a barricaded subject in a home who was failing to come out. potentially armed. We don't know what we're getting ourselves into, and that's why SWAT is called out. But we had some very good information that he was in the home. The homeowners were very cooperative, and we had information from them that, yes, that person showed up at the house. There was a felony warrant for his arrest, and he failed to comply with instructions to come out peacefully, so that's why SWAT was called. And the regional SWAT team did a tremendous job of taking that person into custody without harming themselves or injuring him as well, through every means possible that they could to go in there safely, utilizing the robot, utilizing other means, instead of putting themselves in harm's way or putting that person in harm's way. So went off without a hitch. Obviously, that's a tremendous amount of effort. A lot of things are going on, a lot of moving parts during that time. So there was a lot of cooperation on the citizens' part, as well as the bus routes had to be diverted as well, because it was right during school time, We had a lot of information going out from the media coming in town as well, so we had to keep them abreast. But I think citizens who also stopped and helped. I mean, we had the cooperative witnesses there at the scene initially, and it was cold outside, and they saw there was a need and came by with blanket and umbrella for the family that was there. So that's the kind of citizens we have in town. So that's a wonderful thing. So if you have any other questions about anything, I'm more than happy to fill you in as best I can.
Good report.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Mark.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
This evening, we also have Chief Yeager with Park County Fire Rescue. He has a little presentation or a little announcement or some information he wants to share with the council.
Yeah, so just a couple quick things. And the first one probably creates more questions than answers, mostly because the event is now a law enforcement event, and it's really theirs to let whatever information they deem fit to put out. But there was a drowning in our community just out of the city yesterday, and it went well. I just tell you that because we're starting to get a lot of questions. People saw things on the news. The dive team did recover a body today, late today, so it has been recovered. And again, I apologize that that's really the only information I can give on that law enforcement really has that in their hands. So I'll mention a couple other quick things. One's already mentioned twice, but I get to put a little different spin on it. I wanted Tony to know that the crews have indicated that the workers getting our emergency vehicles around the roundabout during construction has gone very well. So again, that they've been doing really well there. The other thing sometimes seems silly for me to stand up and say every year, but I think I have to. The mayor mentioned earlier, school's just about out, and there is this time frame where we tend to forget that in the middle of the day, not just going to school and coming home, there's kids everywhere. So I just say for the record, please be safe out there. So,
Okay. Very good, Chief.
so
Thank you. Appreciate it. In the packets this evening, Council, you also have a report, Public Works report. Our city engineer, Tony Cooper, is here this evening. He can answer any questions you might have on the report. If you don't have any questions, we can just move on. I know there's some information there from the wastewater treatment plant supervisor as well, and our Public Works supervisor. But any questions on the Public Works report? Okay.
I'd like to know what Tony's doing with all this slack time.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm convinced he's living down at the Public Works building. I don't know.
Exactly.
He's always there. Okay, very good. Thank you for the reports. Next is citizens' public comment. If anybody would like to address the council, please step up to the podium and give us your name and address, and if you could please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens. Dennis Hill, 1316 West Alder Place. Just an observation, and probably has been looked at, I'm sure, and that has to do with the traffic going up and down Pacific Highway and the folks coming out of Fifth Street onto Pacific Highway. I've actually witnessed a couple of really very close calls. And usually, it's someone heading north on Pacific Highway and thinking they're going to need to stop. And then they figure out, no, they don't need to stop, and the person coming out of Fifth decides, oh, they're going to stop for me, and they don't. And then the folks coming down, going south on Pacific Highway, it appears that, again, there's an anticipation that someone there coming out of Fifth, because that line gets pretty, it goes all the way up to Aspen many times, that they're anticipating perhaps this person's going to scoot out. So I'm wondering if there's been any discussion and looking at possibility or trial of a temporary stop sign or something to preclude. At this point, I don't know of any incidents. Chief would know that. But I just noticed a couple of times personally in my travels up and down, no one was hurt, no fender bender, but it brought to my attention that that could be an issue because we have a long haul ahead of us in regards to the traffic. So I wanted to share that with you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Pamela Fournier. I live at 1927 East Heitman Circle. And I was just wondering what the city's policy is on city camping, such as what Beaverton just passed. I don't know if you heard on the news, but, you know, I don't know what the policy is for the tent camping or people sleeping on the street. I mean, like around a week ago, I was going down and I saw a guy wrapped up in a blanket right in front of the sleeping, right on the edge of the thing. And I thought, oh no. I moved up from Portland, so I'm a little concerned. I just don't want it to come north, that's all. So that's my question.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know, Chief, if you want
I
to.
could respond to the individual that was sleeping on the sidewalk. That was a gracious thing on our officers' part to allow because they were intoxicated and they didn't want them to drive home. And they didn't have anyone to come pick them up, so that's why they were allowed to do that, sleep it off and then be able to leave because they were trespassed from the casino.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, well, I'll get back with you on the actual city policies and what have you, Pamela, but thank you for bringing it up. Anyone else?
Larry Luton, 1109 West C Avenue, La Center. Council, mayor, and members. I had the pleasure last Sunday night of working with American Legion, and we inducted a young man into the rank of Eagle Scouts. And it was pretty impressive turnout, but the thing that kind of upset me was, Mayor, you were listed on there as going and speaking. You weren't there, and you never sent a representative. And that was a big event in that young man's life. I mean, there are not that many Eagle Scouts, and I was pretty impressed. And it was, and I was looking forward to the mayor, hoping, or at least somebody could have sent a representative. But just a heads up, thanks.
I appreciate that. I did leave a message for the Farrells on that, and I explained to them that my wife and I needed to be in Tacoma on Sunday. But I appreciate you bringing that up, but I was in contact with them. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move along. This evening, we do have a presentation from Clark County Fire Rescue. Chief Mike Jackson will be presenting. It has to do with the interlocal agreement for fire marshal. We also have Chief Knorr here this evening, and yeah, it's great to have so many chiefs here tonight. We're chief heavy tonight.
We're all here, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the firefighters are out playing, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Oh, Chief Norr will be presenting.
I will not be presenting, I just
Oh.
want to do a quick introduction. Thank you.
Okay.
John Norr, Fire Chief, Clark County Fire and Rescue. As you all know, we are a special district fire district that provides service to the cities of La Center, Ridgefield, Woodland, and the unincorporated areas in between. I put a strategic plan into place about 18 months ago, and it had several items that we wanted to accomplish over the 3-year period for the fire district. And one of the items was to have a more robust fire prevention and fire review program. At this time, the Clark County, and our name is a little bit of a misnomer because it makes it sound like we're part of the county government, but we are not. We are a special district that just serves this northwest portion of the county. Clark County has been doing all the fire plans review and inspections for the cities that want them. And the cities are allowed by Washington Code to have somebody else do those. And for us as a fire department, to me, it was very important that we start doing that process so that our firefighters can see the process from the very beginning, not just looking at access and water supply, but every step of the way as a building is built out. Our firefighters need to get inside and see them, and we need a local contact for that. We also wanted the opportunity to provide a higher level of customer service for the 3 cities. So I asked Mike Jackson, who took over as fire marshal when Tim Doughty retired last year, to put that program together, and he's been working very hard on getting that program up and running. It's been adopted by the city of Woodland. You'll hear about it tonight, and we'll be making the same presentation tomorrow night to the city of Ridgefield. So with that, I wanted to introduce Fire Marshal Mike Jackson, and he'll give you a quick presentation on it.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you very much for the opportunity to present and for your consideration of what we look forward to as an opportunity to strengthen that partnership between the district and the cities. I've got 2 handouts for you. One is the same copy of the interlocal that you have. There was one, and I mentioned to the mayor prior to the meeting, in discussion as we were working out the details with our other city partners, we clarified and simplified the fee structure for existing occupancies. So you'll notice the document is essentially the same as the one that you've had for review, with one addition at the bottom that simplifies that for inspections of businesses that are already up and operating. And then I'll provide you a copy of the presentation that we have as well.
Thank you.
All right, so just a little bit of the background. I provided some very basic stats on the fire problem. As the chief talked about, we're looking to get into that prevention mode. Unfortunately, I don't foresee that the response component of our business is going away anytime soon, but we'd like to get on the front end of that and try to manage that as best we can to try to prevent those things before they happen, knowing that that certainly is the best service that we can provide to the folks in our communities out there. But to give you kind of a rough idea, in the United States, a little over 500,000 fires a year and about 2,700 deaths from fire. So if you look at that in relation to other natural disasters, we kill more people in structure fires than we do all other natural disasters combined. If you look at tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, landslides, all those things combined results in fewer fatalities than in structure fires. Obviously, a lot of property damage, over $10 billion in the country. The western United States is a little bit interesting. There's a higher rate across the board of fires, deaths, injuries, property loss. And then specifically in Washington State, about 8.4 fire deaths per million people, 35th in the United States, so not where we want to be. And in our district specifically, we're at about 1.5 times that rate for the same time period. So, and I provided kind of bigger stats because obviously still, fortunately, fire deaths aren't things we experience on a real regular basis, but it does occur, and in our case, at a higher rate than certainly we'd like to see. And specifically in Washington, with populations that fit the size range of the cities that we serve, it's a significantly higher rate of fires, deaths, injuries, and a loss, essentially about 73% higher than it is in larger cities. And a lot of that comes to do with just the funding structure, with fire districts, the available resources for response, as well as that ability to do that prevention effort on the front end. So kind of real quick on how we got here. The Washington state statute dictates that counties and cities enforce the fire code. It leaves it fairly vague. It doesn't say that has to be done annually, twice a year, every 5 years, but spells out that cities and then the county for the unincorporated areas have that responsibility. So there's certainly some implied liability and things that go along with that as well. Also provided information regarding our role. So as a special fire district, we don't have the legal responsibility or authority outright to provide code enforcement and those fire prevention services, but we are positioned and legally can provide that work through a contract with the cities. So that's kind of how we got here, and the interlocal agreement that you have is essentially the same interlocal agreement that we're looking at with all 3 cities. And that agreement leaves a lot of flexibility that can be handled administratively, so that the city still has a lot of discretion and say in how that agreement is administered. And it could be that you simply say, we want these things to happen annually for all of these places, and that's it. Or it could be picked and modified on an annual or monthly basis, whatever the city deemed necessary there. So kind of the challenge is the state requires the enforcement of the fire code. It does allow for fees to do that. We're fortunate that with the leadership of Chief Knorr, that he recognizes there's also a benefit to the district and our responders as well. So our fee structure is not built around 100% cost recovery, but it's designed to help offset the cost and hopefully manage at least half of the expense of administering these programs, which a lot of places have higher fees that look closer to 100% cost recovery, but we recognize that benefit to the district, so hoping to offset that with some of our existing levy collections. We know in the cities, especially cities the size of La Center and our other partners, that resources are limited, which makes it a challenge to meet that mandate with any consistency or reliability. Even from our standpoint, if we didn't have the partnership with the 3 cities, it would be difficult. By kind of pooling those resources together and that need together gives us the depth to where we can provide some staff and coverage to manage that a little more consistently. So our approach to community risk reduction, as far as the fire marshal services that are proposed in the interlocal agreement, we're looking to aggregate the needs of those 3 cities so we can share the resources together. Long term, we're looking for 2 folks that'll be dedicated to this work. We currently have a federal grant out that we're hoping to hear back on in the next couple months. If that grant is received, that'll fund an inspector position for 1 year. Our plan with that, if we're successful with that grant, is that there would essentially be a fee holiday for all 3 cities, and we would attempt to do 100% inspections for all existing occupancies over the course of that year with no fees to the business owner. We have a plan, if the grant doesn't come through, that as hopefully we get the agreements in place and move forward, that we'll have some revenue and can hire that position. Unfortunately, that would require the implementation of the fees from the onset for those existing occupancy inspections to help manage that expense. Some better efficiency is kind of what we're after. Again, kind of aggregating the 3 cities there together. Sustainability and managing that as development fluctuates, with doing the existing inspections as well as new construction and sharing that with 2 folks. We believe that that'll be sustainable as the rate of development fluctuates, and that we can manage that effectively. Give us kind of a common, consistent approach amongst the 3 cities, which I think will help battle any conflicts or unhealthy competitiveness there, to where we can make sure that the standard is consistent across the board, regardless of where folks may be looking for their development. And it's essentially the state fire code we're looking to apply, so we're just making sure that that is applied fairly and consistently across the board. I think from the fire district's approach, we also have that expertise with response and kind of a practical understanding as far as the needs. So whereas the code will allow alternative methods and measures, we'll be the folks that are also responding to the emergencies when those occur. So we're hoping that being engaged on the front end with the prevention efforts, that is also a little bit better managed instead of trying to make an assessment on what responders might do or what operations may be for a different fire department. We're essentially the same organization providing that comprehensive service. And then strong customer service is certainly a goal, because the citizens of the city are citizens of the district. It's in all of our best interest to make sure that we have a place that's open and welcoming to well-managed development, as well as keeping our businesses strong and running and trying to minimize any potential impacts from fire or problems like that. And it does tie, as the chief kind of alluded to, with our vision and our mission, specifically talking about protecting folks from those hazards that are out there, and even specifically spelling out prevention and education. You'll notice even in front of response, kind of getting back to that. If we can prevent it before it occurs, we believe that that's the best service we can provide to our citizens, so they don't have any of the suffering that goes along with that. So kind of an obvious question is, why is the district interested, which I think the chief covered and we've hit here, but obviously tied to our mission and values. It will impact safety and quality of life is what we're after for the citizens. It also has a direct tie as far as performing inspections and enforcement of the fire code is tied to our protection class, which is established by Washington Survey and Ratings. They look at fire department operations, including fire code enforcement of municipalities, water supply, and our communications. And then that information is provided for insurance companies that then come up with a plan that's approved by the state insurance board that then drives insurance rates. So this will directly impact the cost of property insurance for both businesses and homeowners by having these resources and this effort out there. Chief talked about our response planning and getting folks involved in the buildings from the front end, so that's an important piece for us. I think it'll keep us engaged and connected with the community and the business owners, hearing their needs, having the opportunity to educate and make sure that they're prepared and have businesses that are resilient to some of the risks that they face. And then just safety of our responders as well. So our general approach is we want to focus on education over enforcement. If there's a significant enforcement issue that needs to be addressed because it's a concern that we can't manage with a business owner or developer, we would work closely with the city to manage that. But generally, the approach is to try to educate folks before we get there, while we're there during the inspection, help them understand the impacts, what the needs are, and have a voluntary compliance with the code. And we'll provide the services individual to each city, so we've set it up, again, with a lot of flexibility. So however the city wants to manage permitting or inspections, we're adaptable to take on whatever level of that work that you want, or if you want to leave it at the city as far as billing and permitting, and us to just do the more technical end of the work. We're flexible in how that's accomplished to meet the needs and demands of the city staff, as well as make it as customer-friendly as possible. And then cost containment, our goal, when we looked at the fee structure, we did a comparison between Cowlitz and Clark counties. The tough thing is it's not apples to apples, because there's lots of different formulas. Some are based purely off assessed value or construction value. Some are based off square footage, some based off occupancy types. So we tried to do a few samples and plug some examples in there for inspections and permitting, and make sure that ours were, because we're willing to help fund that they were competitive with the bottom level fees that are out there. And so that's what we accomplished. Looking at all the cities in Cowlitz and Clark counties, we landed with fees that are competitive or lower with the lowest rates that are out there. And that's all we have this evening. Certainly open to any questions, and look forward to hopefully coming back for your next meeting for a formal consideration.
Thank you.
Any questions I can answer?
Just a comment. I think it's a real smart way that they've approached this thing. We did have a special meeting with them to go over the fee structures. One of the things that you didn't emphasize, I think is real important, is the plans review process. That your people will be involved with the plans review process, and that's real important. You mentioned from beginning to end, and having somebody on in our local area that knows what's being constructed, how it's being constructed, what the prevention measures have been, getting the people in and out of it. I think that's all really, really smart way to do it. And most small cities can't afford fire marshals. They just can't. So this is sort of a blessing in disguise. Our fire district is stepping up. It can affect your insurance. If we have a lower rating because of a fire marshal, then that will actually affect your fire insurance. It'll reduce your fire insurance. So that's another perspective that you guys brought up, but maybe you didn't emphasize it. And the plans review process, we did talk about that, and they said they'll get the plans review if you're going to build a new house out. Their target is to get it out to us within a couple of weeks, which is real important to developers, real important to interface with the community. So when you're getting something done, is that it's getting done in a timely manner. So I think those are the things that I think was very smartly done. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. And I think with the combining the three cities and having the ability to have a depth of staff of 2 dedicated to this will help make sure that we can meet those timelines regardless of vacation and other commitments. So we look forward to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, very good.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Chief.
So, Council, with your concurrence, I will instruct staff to go ahead and bring this forward for the next city council meeting, resolution, and adopt the intergovernmental agreement.
Does the city attorney need to review this first?
Well, he will.
Okay, as part of that, okay.
Yeah.
You didn't mention, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda, under new business, we actually have 2 reports from our city engineer, Tony Cooper. The first one is going to be on pavement repair project, and the second one on the roundabout water line relocation. So.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council. This is kind of hard to see, but this first staff report is actually for authorization to award the 2018 pavement repair project. In May 2018, I prepared plans and specifications for a pavement repair in several areas in some streets that need some attention, and this is part of the pavement preservation budget. The estimated budget is normally around $60,000 a year for this for the preservation program. The estimated cost is around $62,000. On May 14, 2018, the project was advertised on the Small Works roster, and it was also on the Southwest Contractors Association site, hosted on that site. The bid opening was on May 28th, and there was 1 bid received from Kolf Construction in the amount of $69,290. There's 20 working days in the plans that the contractor has to complete it, and it'll likely be constructed in early summer. There is enough budget to construct this in the preservation program. We've already checked, and there is enough to construct it with the budget we have. So the total estimated budget, again, is $69,290. And I've attached the bid tab from, that was bid items that call for bid on. And shows you the breakdown. Not very many items, but basically it's going to repair some areas on Fir Avenue between 7th and north of 7th and north of 8th, and then I think there's one at 7th and a couple or 3 on Elm. And the operations supervisor and I looked at several different options for pavement repair or for pavement preservation, and we thought that this would be the best use this year to repair some of these really bad areas that they have to crack seal all the time. So if you have any questions.
Tony, a question for you. There's a bad spot developing on Aspen. Is that included in this? Or?
That is not. We picked some of the areas that have been problem areas in the past, and I know the operations supervisor has worked on it with their crew for years. But again, there's a lot of areas that need attention. I know which area you're talking about. We could possibly, we could have included in there, but one of the things is that's an area that gets a lot of traffic to, and so with the construction of the roundabout, some people use that as part of their detour, and so we thought it might not be good to try that this year, but that is one area that needs to be repaired. Yeah. Sure.
Good. Any other questions? So could I get a motion to?
Mayor, I'll recommend the City of La Center award the bid from Koff Construction in the amount of $69,290.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to award the bid, Koff Construction, in the amount of $69,290. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is about the water line. Yeah, roundabout. Actually, you click on that one, I think report, water line relocation, try that one. That should be it. Yes. Okay. So, I'm going to give an overview of this. Maybe, let's see, I'll scroll down here. So,
Excuse me, Al, could you dim that one light behind you, please, or turn off one of those switches?
it's kind of hard to see.
There you go.
Thanks.
All right, good job, Al.
So, when there's a water line that existing water line in 4th Street, and I don't have a pointer, but basically it's on 4th Street up to the edge of the roundabout.
Here you go,
It's 12-inch main, and oh, thanks.
Work it.
Remember how to get this.
Don't put your
I
eye
need the
out.
light back on, Al.
Got to be smarter than the.
Is there another one down there?
That's okay. That's okay. I can. Oh, okay. That's okay. I can. Okay.
Little tiny button in the front.
Oh, you just
hold the There you go. Okay, that works.
Other button.
How many of them do?
Okay. There you go. Thank you. So there's a 12-inch water main that's in 4th Street right here, and actually one in Pacific Highway. As part of the roundabout construction, they have to lower this portion of the roundabout. What happens is the water main is above the subgrade, so it has to be lowered. That was part of the project that was the contractor bid. In the past couple of months, CPU has approached us and said that in order to lower that, and there's a hydrant that needs to be moved, it shuts off all the water to the city. Basically, all the water that fills the reservoirs. So, one of the suggestions of my CPU is to build a bypass water line here, connecting to the main up Aspen Avenue and through this grass area, and then connect into the 4th. And that way, that water line could be charged, and then this water line could be deactivated, and the contractor could lower it without any impact to water. CPU is really, they feel like this could be an impact to the city's water for fire, and so they recommended doing this. As part of this, so just to let you know, I talked to CPU about this, and they said that they would basically pay for this water line, since it basically is going to benefit them. But one of the things is this is going to be a change order, but we get reimbursed by CPU. But one of the things is that this water line goes through this grass area that's adjacent to Sternwheeler Park. Well, WashDOT and FHWA considers this part of the park. And they consider this, it would be an impact, any construction in this area is an impact to the park. They consider, it's a section, they call it, FHWA calls it Section 4F, and it's for public use, and it requires environmental and FHWA approval to do anything, any kind of construction in this. So what WashDOT has told me is that since this is just a low impact, that would be constructed and then repaired, that they call it I can get what's called a de minimis approval from them. As part of that, we have to complete an application, a letter justifying what we're doing, why it's benefiting the city, why is it a benefit, and what the impacts are going to be. One of the criteria for their approval is that there has to be some kind of public forum or public approval. It could be a SEPA, could be an open house, or approval by council. So as part of the approval, we need consent from city council that this is all right to impact this park temporarily. So basically what we need is a consent that city council will allow this temporary impact, and the public is aware that this is a temporary impact. It likely won't take long for them to build this, and they'll repair it in kind. So this is what this staff report is asking, is for city council to authorize or to consent that this temporary impact is something that will be okay to build. That answers. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Tony, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the temporary impact the construction of a permanent bypass or a temporary bypass?
This is going to be permanent. This is going to be permanent. It's going to be a permanent line that CPU will use as an alternate to this water line that is in here. But this line could be lowered, but this will be an alternate line that they'll use. So if anything ever happened to this line, they would have a bypass.
So we have some long-term benefits and
long-term
service.
benefits for
We don't have to
service.
pay
Yeah,
for it?
yeah, it'll be a long-term. And so CPU, they would like to see this done for just to have some an alternate service here to the city. This is a 12-inch water main, and this is a 12-inch water main. They do have 6-inch in here that will feed water domestically, but it won't fill the reservoirs. So these 12s really are what will fill the reservoirs for fire service, and that's what they're really concerned about. So this would benefit the city and CPU by having this alternate route. But it'll be permanent.
Okay. Tony, I assume CPU will pay for complete restoration, new turf plants,
They'll pay,
whatever?
the contractor already gave us an approximate cost. I think it was around $55,000, and in a couple of meetings, CPU has said, yes, we'll pay for that. We're going to need to have some kind of agreement so that they will reimburse, a formal agreement. But they've already said that they'll pay for it. So.
I think most water systems do this regularly in cities. They try to have looping systems so that if there's a big fire in one area, that they can reinforce the water system with another area. So this is very common practice, and it's only a temporary interruption. So
To what FHWA and WashDOT Environmental consider, an impact to the park.
Will there be any shutdowns to tap in?
There will be shut down to the public works building and the wastewater treatment plant for 6 hours or so, a couple times, CPU's told us. There will be a hot tap. I think they're going to try to hot tap this.
Okay.
So I think they're going to do it in a way so that it won't interrupt service to the city, or if it does, it's going to be very, very short duration. I mean, just enough to make the connection. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But the way it is now is this whole line is just, if you can see it there, it's exposed in the subgrade. It's just too high. They have to lower the whole water line.
Question for you, Tony.
Yes.
In your staff report, you mentioned that approval is required from WashDOT and FHWA.
Yeah.
Do you foresee any delays because of two
Well,
agencies?
I've already touched bases with WashDOT about this and kind of raised the concern. This is during construction, and they said as soon as we get the application into them, they anticipate it's going to be less than 2 weeks. So the contractor is aware of that date, and they say it won't impact them as long as it doesn't go longer than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But they've already told me that WashDOT's already reviewed the package that I've submitted, the preliminary package, and they said, yeah, it's really a minimum impact, and they don't anticipate it's going to take any time at all to approve.
Is there a separate approval then required from some FHWA?
No, it's all one application.
Okay.
So WashDOT Environmental has to approve it, and since there's federal funds, FHWA has to approve it as well. So they'll do that themselves, yeah.
And that can be done expeditiously?
Yes, as soon as tomorrow, I'll try to get all this together. I have to take basically meeting minutes here to say that there was a consent and included in that application, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
What we need, Mayor, is just a motion to approve this.
Yeah, if you could, Al, if you could please turn lights on.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed roundabout water line relocation 11B as outlined by the city engineer this evening.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to temporarily temporarily impact Sternville Park to construct the water line through park area near the intersection of 4th Street and Aspen Avenue. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Tony. Great job.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Tony.
appreciate it. So that's all we have on the agenda for this evening. If I could get a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will be having a work session immediately after the city council meeting. We'll break till 25 minutes too, and we'll reconvene. Thank you, everybody, for attending the meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.